So what we're doing today is beginning to gather together some stories about the 50 years ago when we built the church building. The records show that the cornerstone was laid in 1965, and then the building was built and the congregation marched from the old church home to this home in '66. So that was a really exciting time in the life of this congregation. How far before the cornerstone was laid did the congregation begin thinking about building a new building?
I was still just out of high school when,
yeah.
when we started to build, but I know there was a lot of talk beforehand.
Yeah. I'm sure it took several years of planning and thinking about it. So how were some of you involved? You were in high school, so...
Well, just out of high school and off to college. My dad was on the building committee,
okay,
along with Arnold Hartwig, Arnold Hilleman, George Spears, pardon? Earl Walker.
How about Christopher Takey?
I think Chris Takey might have been on there.
And how about Albert Anthony? Chuck's dad. Was he on?
I've seen the pictures, but I can't remember.
Ralph Fons, I'm pretty sure. Ralph Fons.
Ralph Fons, okay.
And I was looking through some records. I saw that Ivan Fons was one of the people on the finance committee. I think Doreen Lampton was one of the people on the finance committee.
Berwin Shaver.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So.
And you mentioned Arnie Hillman.
Yeah. So as the thought of building a new building came to life, what were some of the hopes for the new building? You remember when you were thinking, and it's a long time to think back, but what were some of the hopes for, or what was some of the reasons that it seemed important to build a new building at that time?
Well, that church building was getting old. It
was.
had been remodeled,
Mm-hmm.
but it was getting old, so I think we all just wanted to have a new building,
Okay.
which we've certainly enjoyed this one.
Yeah. Was that building air conditioned?
No. It was not.
Oh, air conditioning was high on the list.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was.
The lights from that old church were brought over here, and Marilyn and Jean Wilkening got one of those lights and fixed it and had it in their living
house,
room.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. So these lamps that are in here are new lamps then?
Yes.
They were new for this building. Okay. Okay.
They sat in the furnace room for quite a while downstairs, and then one night at a council meeting we decided that we needed to put them up.
Okay.
And then our statue of Christ, we brought that from the old church,
Okay.
which I'm so glad we did.
Yeah, we kept all the altar and background from the old church, and it was eventually donated to another beginning congregation. I can't remember where right now. But, it was sitting in the basement here for so long, or quite a while, and I finally decided it wasn't
Down the
doing
home
any
for
good.
the altar, I imagine, too, from the old church.
Yeah, I think so.
In the council at that time, there was a secretary and a treasurer were women, and the whole council were men. Absolutely all men, and they all worked together. There was nobody from two families, one family.
So how did the idea for this building, do you remember during that process kind of, I mean, this is a great design, and kind of how this design came to choose this design?
I don't know how they selected the architect, who was in charge of selecting that. I'm sure it was the building committee to start with, but when that was being done, I was off to school, or before I was out of high school. So, but I do remember Dad going to an awful lot of meetings. There's a lot of them.
My boys were, both of my boys were teenagers when we moved into this church, so I can remember Steve wearing this white gown, and they all went from the old building to the new building and carrying the edifices, and that's one of the most things that stands out in my mind. And our first service here that was open house type of service was absolutely packed. This whole room was packed. The church proper was packed. It was packed with people that had grown up in this church.
Our old church was always filled.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to look for a place when we went to church, didn't we?
Had to get there early.
It was always full.
I remember standing on that carpet on the first or the second step. I was probably 4 years old doing my singing in my
And I can remember when Earl come home from the last meeting, come home, he said to me, I wrote a $1,000 check. And I said, you did? And he said, yes. Reverend Meineke said that if everybody on the council gave $1,000, we'd have our new church. So that was, and then a lot of us didn't take the bonds, but they would be paid back first. A lot of us didn't take them. We put a lot of money into the church.
Well, that was evident from the whole congregation when we had the mortgage burning. That wasn't that many years after we moved in here that we had the mortgage
It
burning.
was 10, wasn't it?
I think somewhere around that, yeah.
I have that picture, Alan. I have Doreen up there, and Berwin.
Yeah.
Was Arnie Hillman in that picture? There were 4 people standing up at the altar. And do you think I can find that picture? I can see Doreen and Berwin standing there. I don't know. We have so many pictures. I don't know where it's at. I looked for it, but couldn't find it.
And then our son, Kirk, he was the first baby baptized in this church.
In this building?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Mary was second. But I remember the procession from the old church over here was kind of unique. I think there was some people were a little sad to leave the old church, but we knew that it wasn't fit to continue to use as it was, and a lot of excitement about getting into this facility and use of it.
Well, and bringing the Sunday school together under one building, because it was separate in the parish house, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sunday school was in
We used the upstairs,
Yeah.
the regular floor, and the downstairs, in the basement for Sunday school, so.
It was interesting to see that the parish house was the Seventh-day Adventist church that was being moved, and I showed pictures of it in this second volume of the State Center Archives history book. And it was being moved down the street. I can't remember where it was located before that, but it was moved into its present position there. It's a home for somebody now.
So was this pretty much the edge of town when this church was being built?
Yeah.
There weren't that many other
Yes.
houses around?
No, this street out here on the north, see, where Doug Gerke is, that's where I grew up. My folks own 2 or 3 blocks there. All
Okay.
those homes are all built there since,
Okay. So this felt like it was out in the country then? The church did when it was first built?
we had cows and chickens.
Because the house that Armbrucks lived in across the street was already here probably when the church was
Yeah.
built.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it was.
Okay.
There was an old house.
There was an old house on the north side where the parsonage sits.
Jimmy Delaware's.
Delaware.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of that.
Delaware boys.
Jimmy Delaware. Oh, goodness. That goes back a ways.
I can remember them.
I don't remember too much about when they marched over, but the kids were in Blanche's. Shelley and Ann were in Blanche's. But I do remember the first ice cream social the next summer. We served 1,000 people.
Oh, my.
And we made the baked beans from scratch, and I have the recipe.
Oh, you cooked the beans and everything, huh?
From scratch.
Oh, my.
I mean from scratch.
Yeah.
And I still have the recipe. I still have some recipes of when we'd have like 6 or 8 women on the committee serving because we had a big aid. I mean, we had 50 women maybe meeting. So,
So was the kitchen one of the things that you were excited about having?
yes.
Did you have much of a kitchen over at the other building?
It was big, but it was antiquated.
Had to shovel wood into the stove?
Well, not quite, not quite. We're old, but not quite that old.
Did they have the ice cream socials outside then? It seems I remember something about serving outside.
Well, we had ice cream socials over at the old parish house
The parish house.
before we moved here, so.
Yeah, but it seemed like there was something out in the yard too.
I was thinking that we served a lot of them downstairs in the basement and then on the first floor.
Yeah.
And probably we rotated them like we do here. I can't remember that. I remember the beans. I just couldn't. We're starting from scratch with beans. And they were good.
Had to be.
The table that our pie shelves now used to set on, it had fold-down leaves on the full length of the sides, so it would fold up and double the size of it, the full length of what the pie shelves were. And it was just full of baked goods, you know, from preparations for the ice cream supper.
So those pie shelves go back a long ways then?
Oh, yeah.
They were in the kitchen.
Yeah, they were on.
They were in
just
the
a part
middle
of
of the
the
They
kitchen.
were, well, they were part of this table that sat in the middle of the kitchen.
Oh,
That,
okay.
you know, and it was the full length of that, and it's about 12 feet long, and the 2 sides would fold up or fold down, however the kitchen was being used.
At the old church, when we had bake sales, and we had a lot of them, they were up at Watson's Grocery. And my mom, before she became ill, she always had cream puffs filled with the best cream puff.
Yeah.
She'd send my brother Chuck up to Watson's Grocery with these cream puffs. I don't know how many of them actually got.
Yeah, I can remember getting up the morning of the bake sales, and my mom was in the kitchen. She had a batch of cooking already done and was making
I
another
bet
batch.
she did, Marguerite.
And she had to set so many aside because she had people call and ordered one and wanted it before she even took it up to Watson's. They came into the house and got it. So she always made a lot of cookings for that.
Alan, my brother Larry, at Southern Iowa, uses your mom's recipe for cooking. Just thinks it's wonderful.
Karen uses it, so.
So do you remember any of the things that the choir did to get ready for the big celebration of?
Oh man, we had some good choir going on there, I'll tell you. We
Was
used,
Doreen already the choir director at
Yeah.
that point, or was,
Yeah.
yes, she was.
so from the time before you moved over here to this building?
We did cantatas at Easter and cantatas at Christmas. I mean, we put on a big show.
Oh, I think that white gown you were talking about, Steve wearing over here, was one of the junior choir
Yeah,
robes.
because we had,
The junior choir had robes that were about, you know, knee length or more.
It was about like
and had a big
here.
red bow on them.
yeah.
Do a lot of members of the junior
That's
choir.
my main vision. I can see Steve with that white gown holding whatever. I don't know what he was carrying. I'd have to look at the picture again, but I can see some in his class. They were like at the head of the line.
Yeah.
And I remember that mostly because it was my offspring.
So is that a good time in the life of the congregation?
I think
Yes.
so.
I think it was.
We had a bigger congregation than we have now.
That's what it is with most congregations
Yeah.
these days. We still have a good congregation. We had 70 kids one night at Vacation Bible Camp,
That's-
counting the little kids and the older kids that were helping. So that's a good thing.
That is.
Well, the building that was built 50 years ago still serves us really well. It's a wonderful design. You know, when you talked about that first worship service where you filled the sanctuary and then had people back here, this is a wonderful design. We've done that several times since I've been here. We've had big funerals or, you know, big weddings or events where there were more people than would fit in the sanctuary. Being able to open up these doors and have more people back here is a wonderful design. And the fact that it's so easily handicap accessible. On 2 floors, there's not an elevator between floors, but we rarely do things on both floors at the same time. So if you're doing something downstairs, it's easily accessible. And if you're doing things up here, it's easy to get from place to place on this floor. And that was really ahead of its time. This building was probably 10 years before they started really thinking about accessibility and making that a big issue when you were doing building. The cinder block construction is very durable. It's not the kind of thing that's going to wear out over time. Cinder blocks are pretty substantial. And so as we begin to think about putting a roof on the building, it's important to take care of the building that we've got. It's a wonderful building that served well for 50 years and will serve well for many, many more years to take care of it. So,
With a new roof and our new windows.
yeah,
That's a big.
then this building will be in good shape. But as you continue to think as we're moving into this, if you think of other stories, or especially about people that were involved, we're going to be honoring those people that were so involved in bringing this building to life. And in fact, on All Saints Day, we'll be lighting candles and remembering those people who worked so hard, naming their names, and lighting candles, the ones that have gone home to be with God. Because there have been a lot of people that worked hard to bring this building to life that are now home with God, and we'll be honoring those people on All Saints Day.
I think George Spears was another one, and Jim Scoville. I think Jim Scoville worked on that one.
Oh,
When they
yes,
built the
I think Jim
yeah.
Scoville was. Definitely.
Didn't Arnie take down our old church building?
Yes, he did.
Before Pastor Meineke built a house there?
Yeah.
Didn't he?
Yeah.
I was
That's
thinking
who
he did.
bought the old
Yeah,
building.
Arnie Helen.
Fortunately, we saved the round windows that we have in the up above in the church here now,
Sanctuary.
in the sanctuary. But there was 2 of them when we saved. I don't know where the second one is, but
There are 2 windows.
There's
no, they're both of
Yeah.
them.
There's 2 windows in there.
Just trying to visualize.
I was kind of thinking, Edith, I think, said that her husband Dave, I think, helped in some in that, getting them ready to go up. We just don't know.
Could have.
Yeah. Well, the putting them up in here, that happened fairly recently in history. That happened about around in 2000 and or 1989 or 90. That's while we were in Leon. They were put up.
So what-
A memorial to Kenny Loney, right? Didn't the Loney family put those up?
I
I may have to look in the
Yeah.
memorial.
I think it
book
was
and find that
the
out.
Kenny Loney, I believe.
And then what about the stained glass windows out in the narthex?
Oh, Larry Bonesack, didn't he?
Yeah, Larry Bonesack made one of them.
Oh, made one of them. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Did he make them both?
I think he did.
Okay.
But where were they at? Do you know?
Well, Larry made the one, I know. I don't know about the other one, but anyway, the glass in them is glass from the old church.
Oh, wow.
Stained glass windows, because they were taken out to the city dump and destroyed.
Weren't those windows arched windows, Alan?
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
yeah.
But he went and got the
But he was out to the city dump and found the glass from those windows. And he saved a lot of it. And then he made I know he made the one, but I can't remember whether he made them both or not. Maybe he did.
At night when we have services here, those lights above, those round deals, They're just beautiful,
Mhm.
just beautiful.
Well, as we move forward in the next months, just continue to think about the stories and the memories you have, especially the people that were involved and things like that, because that's the stories that we want to tell, are the stories of bringing this building to life 50 years ago, and then doing what we can to take care of it for future generations. So, thank you very much for coming in and sharing this